AITA for inviting a surprise guest who left my wife speechless after she kicked me out? Marcus Reynolds never raised his voice. He had no reason to. 45 years old, serene, reliable, and ignored. That is how most people would have described him. A cybersecurity consultant by profession, Marcus understood systems. He knew what made them work and how to quietly dismantle them when necessary. What people never figured out was that Marcus applied the same mindset to people, especially those who underestimated him. On a rainy Thursday morning in Chicago, Marcus walked into the kitchen of the house he had built with his wife, Rachel Reynolds, and found her swirling a glass of California white wine. Her red silk robe shimmered under the pendant lights. With her eyes glued to her phone, she barely noticed his presence. "My friends will be here soon," she muttered, still swiping on her screen. "Do me a favor and just go somewhere else today." No explanation, no pleas, just an order, as if he were the family's hired help. Marcus did not flinch. He rinsed his favorite coffee mug slowly and precisely. The sponge squeaked faintly as he rubbed it around the ceramic rim. He did not speak or argue. He simply turned around, gave her a subtle, unreadable smile of the kind you practice in mirrors when you have made a decision, and walked down the hallway. To her, it probably looked like a retreat, but Marcus was not leaving. He was preparing. At the end of the hallway, behind a locked drawer she never asked about, lay the true heart of the house. A single manila envelope labeled Control-Z, a matte black USB drive with folders categorized by month, and a red folder with the initial CL, which were neither his nor hers. Inside that folder was everything Rachel had buried beneath fake smiles, cropped selfies, and filtered brunch photos in Wicker Park. Marcus did not need a detective. He was one. He had been gathering evidence for months, not out of paranoia, but from a quiet pain that kept whispering, "She is no longer who you think she is." Rachel once described him as boring, predictable. Her friends would laugh about it when they thought he was not around. "He is like a ficus plant with a credit card." But she made a mistake. She thought boring meant blind. What she did not know was that Marcus had tracked every single one of her Thursday visits to the Lakeshore Hotel room in the Gold Coast, always between 2:15 and 5:30 in the afternoon. She did not know he had installed a data sync between her company tablet and their home Wi-Fi. She did not know her car's Bluetooth still synced with the dashboard of Marcus's older Ford, parked 2 blocks away from her favorite wine bar in River North. Every time she played pretend, she left a trail. Marcus knew about Christopher Lang, her company's compliance officer with his smooth talking, the one with custom suits from a high-end tailor downtown and a smile that was far too perfect. The one who thought calling Marcus the gray husband was clever. Christopher was not clever. He was careless. He used the guest room in Marcus's house. That was all Marcus needed. But this was not just about betrayal. It was about justice. And Marcus was tired of playing in silence. He met Amanda Lang that very afternoon. Christopher's wife, in her mid-40s, serene like someone who had survived storms long before this one. Her pearl earrings were the only decoration on her otherwise completely black and elegant outfit. She did not cry. She did not scream. She shook Marcus's hand like a woman who had already buried the idea of mercy. "He has been lying to both of us for years," she said. "Let us get straight to the point." They sat down with Amanda's lawyer, a skinny, energetic young man named Matthew Klein, who looked more like a barista from Wicker Park than a litigator. Marcus did not like him, but Amanda trusted him, and that was enough. Marcus handed him the USB drive, evidence from the guest room, audio from late-night calls, screenshots of texts dripping with contempt. "I cannot believe he still cooks for me," Rachel had written once. "It is as if he thinks effort makes up for being gray." Amanda's fingers tightened around her coffee cup, but her face remained cold. "We will present this together," she said. "He will not know what hit him." She paused. "Rachel will not know who betrayed her trust first, her husband or her accomplice." Marcus nodded once. Friday night. The plan was not just personal. It was structural. Marcus was not going to yell. He was going to silently tilt her entire world. That night, while Rachel prepared a girls' night full of wine, artisanal cheese boards, and fake laughter, Marcus finished syncing her deleted emails, her text messages, and her access logs to an encrypted vault. Then, he brewed some chamomile tea, sat in silence, and waited. The folder on his screen blinked, ready. He did not get furious. He refined, because justice is a system, and Marcus Reynolds had just activated it. Friday arrived with a kind of rehearsed elegance. Rachel was in full performance mode. By 10 in the morning, she was wearing a white satin jumpsuit with wide leg slits, her hair in big beach waves, and her face made up in what she called her brunch glam look. She moved around the kitchen like a lifestyle influencer prepping for a photo shoot, humming along to an indie pop playlist. The air smelled of overpriced diffuser oil, golden amber, and driftwood, the kind that tries too hard to smell expensive. She arranged imported crackers and olives with a precision that made it seem like the placement of goat cheese could fix a broken marriage. Marcus did not say a word. He drank black coffee in his oldest hoodie and gray sweatpants, reading a worn-out copy of The Art of Counterplay by an old chess grandmaster. She did not even ask him where he was going. She assumed he would disappear like always. Right on time, Rachel leaned against the kitchen doorframe, holding a glass of champagne and smiling a little too much. "If you are still here when they arrive," she said, her eyes scanning him like a wrinkle she could not iron out, "it will be awkward." He did not even look up from his book. "Oh no, they will not forget tonight." She laughed as if he had told a bad joke. "God, sometimes you are so weird." Marcus closed the book, folded the page at chapter 22, and stood up. He walked to the hallway mirror, adjusted his collar, and checked his watch. Across the room, the charcuterie board gleamed under the dining room lights. Every wine glass sparkled. The doorbell rang. Rachel lit up. "Showtime," she whispered and floated toward the door. But when she opened it, the voice that greeted her did not belong to one of the girls from her brunch club. "Hello, Rachel," said a woman in a charcoal gray wool coat. Her hair was in a tight bun, her tone measured but sharp. She did not wait for an answer. She walked in as if she owned the place. Rachel blinked. "Wait, who are you?" "My name is Amanda," she said calmly, turning toward Marcus, who stood quiet and unreadable by the hallway. "I believe we are both owed an explanation." Beside her was Matthew, the young lawyer, holding a black briefcase with a gaze so flat it cut like glass. "What the hell is this?" Rachel snapped, stepping back. Amanda's voice was like a judge's gavel. "Your husband is not the only one you have been lying to." Rachel looked at Marcus, confused and already calculating. Matthew stepped forward. "We will sit down." They sat at the dining room table. Amanda faced Rachel. Matthew was by her side. Marcus leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Amanda opened a thin folder and slid the first page forward. "Do you recognize this account?" Rachel hesitated. What is this?" "Bank statements," Amanda said. "Joint account. Your signature is on every page. That is your handwriting, right?" Rachel opened her mouth, then closed it. Matthew added another sheet. "Here are receipts, jewelry, hotel rooms, weekend getaways at resorts, all charged to that same account. Last Thursday's reservation was under the name R. Lang. Your reservation." Rachel's face drained of color. "You have been spying on me." "No," Amanda interrupted. "Your boyfriend never changed the password to our shared banking app after our last therapy session. We both got the alerts. He just did not think I would keep watching." She slid another envelope over. "These are digital logs showing access to confidential company data, emails, shared credentials, and some interesting forwarding threads involving internal reports. Your device ID is on every log." Rachel reached for her phone. "Do not bother," Marcus said coldly. "You will not find any help." Rachel called Christopher. It rang once, straight to voicemail. She tried again. The same. She called her best friend, Kayla, with no answer. Then, moments later, a text message vibrated. "You got my husband fired. Never call me again." Rachel's hand was shaking. Amanda leaned in. "You gambled with your marriage and your career, and your little web of lies just collapsed." Matthew closed his briefcase with a soft click. "We recommend you seek legal counsel. Everything in these folders will be submitted for a corporate compliance review on Monday." Rachel slumped in the dining chair. Her gaze turned to Marcus, seeing him truly for the first time. "You set me up," she hissed. "No," he said calmly. "You just did not realize how many people were watching." The goat cheese remained untouched. The wine was half poured. And Rachel was no longer the host. She was the main event. When Amanda and Matthew left, silent, serene, Rachel was left alone, blinking like someone who could not figure out if the floor had just vanished or if it had never been there to begin with. Her empire of aesthetics, even filtered realities, was crumbling, and Marcus Reynolds had not even raised his voice. He had simply waited, and now it was her turn to fall apart. The silence after the door closed was the kind that a house remembers. Rachel stood frozen at the dining room table. Her perfectly prepared wine night had turned into an untouched graveyard of brie and lavender honey. Her hand hovered over her phone, trembling slightly, not from guilt, but from the sheer disbelief that her world had slipped out from under her feet so easily, so quietly. Marcus watched her from the hallway, arms crossed, his coffee growing cold in his hands. "You always assumed no one was paying attention," he said, his voice soft but final. "Turns out you were the only one playing with your eyes closed." Her eyes flashed. "You manipulated this. You planned it." He did not blink. "No, you did. I just made sure the truth showed up wearing a suit." Rachel stood up, so fast her chair screeched against the hardwood. She paced back and forth like a trapped animal. "They will be back," she muttered half to herself. "Kayla is dramatic. She just needs time. I will call her again. Oh, and Christopher, he will explain it. He would not just leave it like this. He promised." Marcus interrupted gently. "Kayla feels betrayed. Christopher is not explaining anything. He is in a boardroom being investigated for data leaks." She stared at him. "How do you know that?" He shrugged, taking a sip of his lukewarm coffee. "Because I built the auditing system they are using." She blinked slowly, as if her brain were loading. "You built what?" Marcus walked over to the side table and picked up a folder. Plain manila, unmarked. He did not hand it to her. He just held it lightly by his side. "I work as a subcontractor for a holding company," he said. "One that provides cybersecurity infrastructure and vendor tools to companies like yours." "Yours, specifically. You did not investigate the contractor's name because, let us be honest, you probably skimmed the whole report. Just like you skim over everything real that does not sparkle on Instagram." Rachel's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her phone vibrated again. A message from Christopher. She opened it with trembling hands. "Whatever game you played, it cost me everything. HR has my badge. They are calling the lawyers. Do not contact me again." Attached was a blurry image. Christopher sitting in a gray-walled office, a company badge folded on the desk in front of him. Behind him, an empty chair, his expression shattered. Rachel looked at Marcus as if he were a stranger who had just turned her entire universe upside down. "I gave up everything for him," she whispered. "I bet everything." "And you lost," Marcus said simply. "Because you never realized that the house does not win by chance. It wins because it rigs the cards." She sank back into her chair, no longer angry, just empty. Monday arrived dressed like any other day, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. Rachel left the house without her usual cloud of perfume or her lipstick routine, without a fake smile, without a staged selfie in the entryway. She simply grabbed her bag and walked out, as if hoping a different version of reality existed somewhere down the street. She did not know that Marcus had been working behind the scenes all weekend. He had compiled every traceable email, every leaked document, and every access log into an encrypted folder. He sent it through a secure channel, anonymous but traceable. He did not need his name on it. The data would speak for itself. At 8:42 in the morning, Rachel swiped her badge at the entrance of her office building in the loop. It flashed red. She tried again. Red. A guard gave her a polite shrug. "Try at reception." Upstairs, the double glass doors to her floor would not open either. At 9:03, Deborah Sinclair, Director of Policy and Ethics, met her in the reception area. Deborah was a former Navy officer with a reputation for no-nonsense professionalism. She always wore an eagle-shaped brooch and spoke as if every word had been vetted for precision and damage control. "Come with me," she said. Rachel followed her, her heels clicking nervously against the tiles. "What is going on?" she asked. "Your access has been suspended, pending an internal review," Deborah replied. "Please bring your laptop." "I did not do anything. We will go over that in the boardroom." Inside the glass-walled room lay a blue folder. The first page was a screenshot of internal access logs. Another was a chain of forwarded emails from Rachel's account. Rachel read it all, each piece more damning than the last. "I do not understand how this was detected." Deborah folded her hands. "Our monitoring system caught it. The tool we use was developed by a vendor named SecureNet Solutions LLC, an external contractor we have used since last year." Rachel turned pale. "I have never heard of that company." Your husband's name is Marcus Reynolds, correct? Rachel's heart stopped. Deborah continued, unfazed. He built the system. It flagged anomalies. We are obligated to investigate. Outside the boardroom, 2 compliance officers waited. Inside, Rachel finally broke. Not out of personal shame, but because she realized this was no longer a lover's quarrel or a dramatic romance. This was corporate, and corporate did not care about her carefully curated stories. Corporate only followed the facts. She had always played her games in the spotlight. Now, her reckoning had arrived in silence. That night, the house was silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence, but the suffocating kind, like the calm before a crack. Rachel sat on the couch with her knees pulled up, still in her work clothes. She had taken off her blazer. Her heels were abandoned near the entrance. Her face looked smaller, without makeup, paler, less like a queen and more like someone whose throne had just been dismantled, lie by lie. She had not spoken to Marcus since she returned. She asked no questions. She made no accusations. She simply moved like a sleepwalker, unsure if the floor beneath her feet would vanish if she breathed too heavily. At 7:01 in the evening, Marcus's phone vibrated. A single message from her. Can we talk? Just us, please. No emojis, no sarcasm, just desperation behind empty words. Rachel never said please unless she needed something or had no more cards left to play. Marcus stared at the screen for a moment, then typed a single word. Sure. He chose the restaurant carefully. Neutral, quiet, a place with thick carpets and heavy wooden chairs you could not run away from in a dramatic exit. It had private rooms. Marcus booked one with no music, no candlelight, just a rectangular table, 1 chair, and a screen mounted on the wall. He arrived early and set everything up. When Rachel walked in, her expression was guarded. Her black wool coat was too formal for a dinner, not formal enough for a courtroom. Her eyes scanned the room and stopped when she saw the single chair, the closed folder, and Marcus standing next to a remote control. What is this? She asked tiredly. I thought we were going to. You wanted to talk? Marcus replied calmly. I want you to watch. He clicked the remote. The screen came to life. First, a still photo. Her and Christopher laughing in the backyard, wine in hand. Then a video clip recorded from the guest hallway, capturing her in a private conversation with him. He is just there like a footrest with emotions. Silent when I want, predictable when I do not. Honestly, it is like being married to a ficus. Rachel's face lost all color. She turned to Marcus, panic bubbling up. Where did you get this? Marcus did not answer. Then came the extracted audio from a phone call between Rachel and Christopher. His voice was clear. Once we refinance the house in her name, she will leave. She will not fight it. She is too docile. Rachel shuddered. The screen faded to black. Marcus walked over to the table, opened the folder, and slid the contents toward her. Divorce papers, asset records, settlement agreements, every page notarized. I have already signed, he said. She did not touch them. She looked at them as if they were written in a language she did not understand. Do you think this makes you powerful? She whispered, her voice trembling. Do you think this is strength? No, Marcus replied. I think this is closure. But we could have fixed it, she whispered, her lips quivering. We could have gone to therapy. We could have. He raised his hand. Just once. Contempt cannot be fixed, he said softly. It gets buried. And I have already dug the hole. Her eyes shined. How long have you been planning this? He looked at her for a long time, long enough for her to know that this dinner was never about reconciliation. It was a memorial. Finally, he spoke. Long enough to make sure I would never second-guess it. Rachel's hands trembled. She reached out to touch the divorce papers. Then she pulled back as if they were a lit match. She stood up slowly. You ruined everything. No, he said. You did. I just held up a mirror. She looked around the private room, as if the walls might shift, as if maybe she could find a crack to slip through and disappear. But there was no escape, neither from this nor from herself. The next morning, Marcus stood on the front porch with 2 men from a moving company he had discreetly hired. They loaded boxes into a truck, one by one. Rachel's designer wardrobe, her shelves of untouched self-help books, her collection of wine glasses labeled by region. He watched quietly as the life she had curated was hauled away in cardboard. Amanda Lang stood beside him in silence. She did not need to speak. She had already said everything with her calm presence, and the way she never looked back. Inside the house, Rachel was falling apart. "This is illegal," she yelled at the movers. "You cannot just take my things. I live here. This is my house." Amanda turned to her. "My lawyer will be in touch. You signed away your co-ownership last spring during your refinancing. This legal arrangement is binding. You cannot do this to me." Rachel cried. Marcus walked over, holding one last envelope. She snatched it from his hands, desperately hoping it contained some annulment, some apology note, a plot twist. She opened it. A single line written in Marcus's neat, clean handwriting. "You told me to get out, and I did. Now it is your world that has disappeared." She blinked. She read it again. And again, but Marcus did not wait for a reaction. He turned around and walked back to the sidewalk. Amanda followed him. There was no explosion, no screaming, no chaos, just silence. And sometimes silence is the loudest kind of justice there is. 2 weeks later, the house was finally quiet. For real this time. No more curated playlists blasting through the speakers. No more scent diffusers masking reality. No more high heels clicking on the hardwood like punctuation marks of superiority. Just the soft ticking of the clock in Marcus's study and the steady breathing of a man who no longer needed to live in the shadow of someone else's performance. Rachel had moved into a sublet across town. One of her remaining friends, Stephanie, a PR consultant, had helped her pack the last of her things. According to mutual whispers, she was sorting her affairs out, but the whispers did not last long. Everyone she once trusted had gone silent. It was not anger. It was pragmatism. They simply stopped responding. Her image was toxic. Her name, once associated with local fundraisers, brunch clubs, and corporate mentoring events, had become radioactive. Not because of the inappropriate relationship, not even because of the scandal, but because she got caught lying to everyone, especially to herself. Marcus did not gloat. He rebuilt. He moved his desk from the back room to the sunroom, where the morning light poured over his notes. He stopped buying decaf coffee. He switched to a single-origin espresso from a local roaster in Wicker Park. He went back to swimming. He signed up for a coding mentorship program for teenagers in low-income neighborhood schools. He got busy living. There were quiet moments when the memory of Rachel drifted in like a cold breeze. A laugh she faked. A comment she once made about his hairline. The way she used to post captions like "grateful for his quiet strength" while texting Christopher under the table. But the memories no longer held any venom. They were ghosts, shadows of a storm that had already passed. One Sunday afternoon, Marcus was sitting in a coffee shop near Lincoln Park, reviewing a student's project for the mentoring program. A young barista walked over with a wide, but unforced smile. "Flat white, extra cinnamon," she said, placing the cup in front of him. "I saw you order it last week. I thought I would get ahead of it today." Marcus looked up, surprised. She was about his age. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. A simple cardigan, no theatrics, just warm eyes and a calm energy. He smiled. "That is impressive." She smiled back. "I am Natalie, by the way." "Marcus," he replied. They chatted for 5 minutes, then 10, then 30. She did not ask him what he did for a living. She did not ask about his past. She did not need to. She asked him what book he was reading, what podcast last made him laugh, what kind of art made him stop and look. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not for what he could provide, not for the shell she could mold, but simply for being Marcus. When he got up to leave, Natalie said something that stuck with him. "You look like someone who went through the fire," she said, "but who did not come out bitter." He smiled gently. "That was the hardest part." She nodded. "Was it worth it?" "Absolutely." As he walked outside, the wind blew fresh and clean. No more secrets, no more pretending, just moving forward. Back home, Marcus stood at the edge of his now clear living room. Sunlight stretched across the hardwood. A gentle breeze ruffled the pages of the notebook he had left open on the couch. He picked it up, turned to a new page, and wrote 5 words at the top: "Some men burn in silence." And then, in smaller handwriting underneath, "But their ashes build new worlds." Comment: "Hey everyone, I wanted to share what stayed with me after reading this. I truly believe we all deserve to be seen and valued for who we are. Setting clear boundaries is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself. It's okay to walk away from situations that no longer serve your peace. Taking responsibility for your own healing can feel scary at first, but it opens up so much space for real growth. I've learned that quiet strength often speaks louder than any argument. Choosing kindness, even when it's hard, shows real character. You might find that the most powerful changes happen when you focus on building your own calm. Remember, you're not alone in wanting a life that feels authentic and balanced. Let's keep supporting each other on this journey toward better days. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.